And in terms of years, I've actually served 22 years with a Republican governor, and now 22 years with a Democratic governor, which I think is pretty amazing to think about. And of course, I have the great honor now of serving with one of my former Senate colleagues, Governor Laura Kelly. She could not be here tonight because today is her birthday. And I think she wanted to spend it with the first gentleman, Ted Doughty. But I can't even begin to calculate the number of legislators I've served with in that amount of time. Believe me, it is a long list. And we've had plenty of turnover. But governors come and go, issues change, faces change, legislative outcomes change. But through it all, there has been one constant: Dale Dennis. The Walter Cronkite of Kansas government. That may be a generational issue here for some people. Walter Cronkite was a longtime CBS anchor and was at one time polled as the most honest man in America. Well, I can tell you this: Dale Dennis is the most honest man in public service. He came on the scene as the school finance administrator for the Kansas State Department of Education just 1 year after the Kansas voters went to the polls in 1966 and passed a constitutional amendment that required fair and adequate funding for public schools. The following year, in 1967, the legislature went to work to create a school finance formula. Dale dug in and became the expert in the flow of state and federal funds to schools. But leave it up to lawmakers to foul things up. Too often, we've seen attempts to strip away funding from our public schools. We wrangled over school finance for many years, too many years, until last session, Governor Kelly was able to strike a bipartisan compromise, delivering on a key promise: fund our schools as required by the Kansas Constitution. Now, I have to ask this question: how many of you are educators in the, if you'd please raise your hand? There's a whole lot. And I think that's a testimony to how people in the education community feel about Dale Dennis. Through all the battles waged over school finance, it was Dale who kept a steady hand as a trusted, knowledgeable, and steadfast resource. He has been a brilliant and reliable advisor for 52 years. Now, I won't tell you how old Dale is, but he started in the department at the age of 30. So you do the math. Dale has helped superintendents and school officials navigate the issues of school funding and other issues. And through it all, his commitment to the children of Kansas has been his foremost priority. And as someone who devoted my own career outside of the legislature to classroom teaching, I cannot fully express how important that has been. So let me sum it up in a simple way. Dale Dennis is an education icon. Dale Dennis is a public service icon. And if you look up in the dictionary the term public servant, his picture would be right there. Without doubt, he has made our state a better place to live. Without question, he has improved the lives and futures of thousands of Kansas school children. So to all of you here tonight, consider your own unwavering support for our public schools as a fitting tribute to a man who's devoted his life to education in Kansas. I am honored to be a part of this well-deserved tribute to Dale Dennis. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Governor Laura Kelly, here by video, to be part of this truly special evening.
Good evening, native sons and daughters of Kansas. I truly regret that I'm not able to be with you tonight for the 2020 Kansan of the Year banquet. I congratulate all of tonight's honorees, including Nicole Gallion and the Lecompton reenactors. Thank you for all your wonderful contributions to our state. And of course, I could not let this occasion slip by without a few special words for one of my all-time favorite Kansans, the one and only Dale Dennis. It's hard to pay tribute to a man like Dale in only a few short minutes, so I asked others for help. In addition to Lieutenant Governor Lynn Rogers and Senator Anthony Hensley, we talked to legislators, educators, superintendents, Dale's colleagues at the Department of Education, and State House staffers. We cast a wide net in search of Dale stories, Dale sayings, or just anything Dale that comes to mind at the mention of this quintessential Kansan. The responses were nothing short of side-splitting, which is not surprising for a man whose sense of humor and colorful way with words are just as renowned as his encyclopedic knowledge of all things school finance. But don't worry, Dale, you're safe. Every time someone shared a memory of you, they'd immediately get as nervous as a frog on a freeway, worried that I might actually share what they told me. So most of the stories landed on the cutting room floor. You're welcome for that, Dale. But no matter who we asked, someone had something kind to say about you and your 52 years of distinguished service. For those who are doing some mental math, Dale has survived 11 different governors, 26 election cycles, 7 national economic recessions. And we tried to tally up the number of school finance lawsuits, but couldn't. Many may not realize that Dale's storied career at the Kansas Department of Education actually began just as Kansans cemented their commitment to public education in our state constitution. When Dale joined the department as a school finance administrator, the ink was barely dry on the 1966 constitutional amendment that demanded fair and adequate funding for Kansas public schools. The new amendment mandated that the 1967 Kansas legislature begin work immediately to develop and approve a funding formula that would meet constitutional muster. As it turns out, it would take the Kansas legislature a year or 2 or 52 to get that school finance formula right. And mostly because a persistent crackerjack son of a gas station attendant from Mapleton, Kansas was willing and eager to take up this work in 1967. It would be a disservice to Dale and all he has accomplished, however, if we only look back through rose-colored lenses. There have been some tough times along the way, to be sure. In 2015, after a brutal round of budget cuts were announced, one legislative staffer called Dale with a few follow-up questions. Dale sounded uncharacteristically tired, having been on the phone with Kansas superintendents for hours by that point in the afternoon. Half of the calls were questions, he said, with a discouraged tone. Half of them were therapy. Sometimes things got personal. At especially heated political moments, Dale became a chronic source of irritation to elected officials who were less than eager to invest in public education. On more than one occasion, he found himself the target of unfair, unreasonable, and blatantly unfounded attacks on his personal character and his professional competence. Dale, I know some years it may have seemed that walking across the street and into the Kansas State Capitol was dangerous to your health, but you always carried on with masterful skill and fierce resolve. And you've always done so with a spring in your step, a twinkle in your eye, and a devotion to this state that has never flickered or failed. Generations of Kansas children are better and will be better because of you. With such a remarkable career, it seems so fitting that Dale has been named Kansan of the Year in 2020, 6 months after the Kansas Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the state has, at long last, fulfilled that constitutional obligation Dale set out to accomplish 52 years ago, making a world-class public education the birthright of all Kansas children. After putting in a solid day of work, Dale is known frequently to say at the department, "I think I've done a good day of washing." Indeed, Dale, you have. Congratulations again on this high honor and for your decades of service to the people of Kansas. I can think of no one more worthy of the title, Kansan of the Year. Good evening, native sons and daughters of Kansas.
I would start by saying I do not believe that Dale has ever sought to have a legacy. He sees himself in service to others. I think that in of itself is this kind of model of what a person can actually do with their life in service to others.
Dale is a Kansan at heart. He grew up in southeast Kansas. He's been in Topeka for many, many years. Working for Kansans and with Kansans has been his commitment his entire life.
What you have to know about Dale, he loves to serve, and he doesn't want the accolades. He doesn't care to be in the limelight. He wants to serve, whether it's a governor, whether it's a legislature, a school district, or a commissioner.
Doesn't matter what time of the day or evening you call, Dale is always there. His dedication and commitment to this state is unparalleled.
His major legacy is being able to provide knowledgeable information on the funding of education in Kansas. He works with our school superintendents, he works with state board members, he works with legislators, and his knowledge of how you fund public education is far beyond anybody I've ever known throughout the country.
You know, he learned lessons, I think, from a small gas station working alongside his dad that has carried forward. Treat people well, help them solve their problems, and be there to help them in any way that you can.
It wasn't unusual for my dad, for example, to somebody in trouble, just leave the station and go help them. He kind of ingrained in me, you did your work first. You didn't do things that were frivolous or vacations and stuff like that until you get your work caught up. I've had trouble getting caught up in the state government.
I saw him when I was first a high school principal in the state and got to meet him because our superintendent said, "Would you like to go meet this guy? This guy knows so much about school finance and you're just going to be blown away by him." And I was. I mean, it was pretty amazing and everybody counted on him so much. Fast forward how many years and everyone's still counting on him.
And no matter what the numbers are, no matter how many dollars we're talking about, he always brings it back to the kids and he always cares about the students. So the fact that he's been involved with public education for more than 52 years, he hasn't forgot what it's all about.
He is Kansas education in a nutshell, and he typifies the hard work that educators bring every day. They see in him the work ethic that needs to happen in order to make sure that kids and families have an opportunity to have a better life.
All of us are so absolutely thrilled that he has finally receiving this recognition, because we can't think of anyone more deserving.
I say probably one of the most important accomplishment maybe was an opportunity to serve. Opportunity to serve.
Lieutenant Governor will now share some of the proclamation that he's here to present on behalf of the governor. Ross and Paula, will you please come forward? Mr. Dale Dennis, will you please come forward?
The proclamation describes several of the things that you heard from Senator Hensley and from Governor Kelly. And instead of reading it, I just want to share briefly. I first heard the name Dale Dennis when I joined the Wichita School Board back in 2001, and his name was often used in very hushed tones because of the respect. And I soon met him, and I guess I would say and describe that he often saved our bacon. And when I joined the Kansas Senate, I often called him, and he would come over with his latest spreadsheet, and again, helped it. And I guess I want to echo primarily the words of Governor Kelly, that what Dale Dennis really stands for is Kansas education and our Kansas students, and always for the benefit of our students. And I just cannot tell you how much the governor and I respect him, and we hope that we can continue to have your advice over the next 7 years of our term. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
This is pretty near humbling beyond words. And I may not get the other opportunities. Nicole, congratulations to you, too. You've accomplished a lot in a short period of time. Thank you. But I truly believe it's been an honor to serve. And I've worked with some great people. And when you stop and think about it, you think about, or I do, the great people I've got to work with. And I mean that sincerely. Governors, legislators, several here tonight that I have a high regard for that served now and in the past. State board members, we could have a state board meeting tonight. There's a lot of educators here, school administrators, and Department of Education staff members. That's a big sacrifice for them, what it costs to come here tonight. So one or two of them reminded me of that. But also, I know where Tamara's sitting. Her and I have been together 44 years in the same office. It's kind of interesting that how I came about to come to the department. I was high school principal, and my former high school principal come to visit one day, and I just thought he'd come by just to have a chat. And he come in and he said, "Would you apply for a job in the department?" And I said, "Why would I take a cut in salary and move?" And he was a guy that I had a great respect for. And he said, "Will you come up and interview?" And I said, "Yes, sir." I will. And I come up and interviewed and talked to the people in the department. And I decided it was the right thing to do. And so I agreed, and we moved. I accepted that. Now, I also told him, I said, I wouldn't ask my board for a release at this time. I said, the contract, and I signed it, it means something, and I wouldn't want to ask for a release. He said, I spent the last 2 hours getting permission for you to leave. So he was all, before I even knew about it, he'd already talked it over. And he was a great person. And we moved in 2 weeks. And during that time, my wife, Laurie, she about had a nervous breakdown, getting everything packed and moved in 2 weeks. And we thank her and appreciate what she did. And our two boys, Damon and Darren, in my 52 years, I never used all my vacation time. I was kind of brought up by my dad, you don't take a vacation until you get your work caught up. That didn't happen. So our vacations were pretty short, so I owe an apology to Darren and Damon a little bit for that, because our vacations were a little short. And they've been awful supportive and helpful. I enjoyed my time in the classroom and as a principal, but it's probably one of the best moves I ever made besides getting married. She probably wants me to say that. And I owe a lot to my parents, I think. I grew up in a small Kansas town, and small kid, I knew everybody within 5 miles. Somebody drive up, you knew where they paid their bill or where they didn't. If they didn't pay their bill, you didn't hurry out there too fast. But it was an early age, and you worked in the station. I don't remember ever starting to work in the station. You just grew up there. But one thing my dad always insisted upon, the importance of community, giving back, doing what's right, and doing your best at whatever you decide to do, and try to make a difference in somebody else's life. So that's what I tried to do. I hope I succeeded at that. There's been a lot of changes in public education, and I can't help but want to mention that. When I was in high school, and many of you, we had a philosophy that wasn't very good in a way. Follow the rules or get out. And I mean, that was just the policy. And what we did, we created a problem that was for society in general. Our social welfare costs went through the roof. We created a lot of problems. And our graduation rate in those days across the country was in the 50s. Now, guys, we're approaching 90% in Kansas. That's a big difference. But the big difference goes back to those teachers and administrators. Right now, every kid is important. When you lose a kid and they drop out of high school, one of my favorite sayings is, when that happens, anybody associated with that kid ought to have a tear in their eyes. Because we as a group failed that kid. Because the chances of that kid making it out in life but without a high school diploma is very, very slim. The teachers today are amazing. They can teach 20 kids, 3 special ed kids, and maybe have 50%, 10 of them at risk. They will relate to every kid. It's amazing what they did a much better job today than we ever did. And it shows by the graduation rate and what we've accomplished. Some of those have been around a while. If you doubt that, go talk to your grandkids and see if you can even understand what they say. They'll talk about language you don't even know about. On a state government, I really work with some great governors and legislators. I want to mention that again because they really cared about the state. I've sat in the a lot of meetings with Senator Hensley and Senator Morse and others, and they were good at sitting down and solving the problem. It wasn't about whether you're Democrat or Republican. It was try to solve the problem at whatever it was. And they were masters. And several of those are here tonight. Tim Emmert's another one that did a lot of that. Back in the majority leader's office, meet. And it wasn't about politics. It was about what is right for Kansas. And God, those were great people to work with. And there was a lot more that I could mention. Senator Hensley, you know, he is the longest serving legislator in the history of the state. Think about that. That's amazing. And there ain't nobody even close. I don't think there's anybody within 10 years, is there, Senator? So, anyway, that's amazing. And when I started out in the department, boy, we were disequalized in school, among schools. The rich got richer and the poor got poor. We had, I don't know, state aid was about $110 million, right in that range. Today, after the Supreme Court approved our formula in the legislature, under a lot of leadership of a lot of good people, altogether for schools, we're about $4.8 billion. And it had to happen if we're going to keep the teachers in the classroom that we deserve and our kids deserve. We've got to pay them a living wage, and we're doing much better at that. One thing about Kansans, we may argue about the amount of money and the politics and all that. The truth of the matter is, deep down, all of them, in my opinion, care about the kids. I joke once in a while with legislators and the friends, people I know, and remind them, I said, if you're not careful, your kids or grandkids are not going to pay your Social Security if you don't shape up. I'm very careful where I say that. It's been an honor to work for the school children of Kansas. It's my honor to serve this great state, and I think it's the best of the best. Most importantly, it's been my life's work, always trying to do what's right for the children of Kansas. I hope we've succeeded. Thank you.